you laid down your life. So stop picking it up again and needing it to be somewhere. We have these arbitrary markers that we put in our mind that say, I must be here by this age. Well, they're just the flesh. So if you lay down your life, stop trying to pick it up. What you do need to do is just show up every day, maximize every day, make the minutes matter, right? Do the calls, do the marketing, do the meetings. Like you need to bring a massive day's worth of work every single day. Keep yourself humble and focus on the Lord, and stop trying to, hit arbitrary goals that just end up bringing a whole bunch of unnecessary pressure.
Welcome back to another episode of Wealth in Christ show where we inspire the masses to become financially free while building God's kingdom. On the show today, we have Mr. Wez Hone. Mr. Wez Hone is a sought-after Christian business coach in Australia, and he's the founder of Kingdom Business TV. In this episode, we will discuss the biblical principles he teach Christian entrepreneurs to apply to succeed in business. So thank you for being here, Mr. Wez Hone.
Good to be with you, mate. Thanks for the invitation.
So my first question is, who is Mr. Wez Hone outside of being a Christian business coach?
So currently 43 years old and basically been doing business since I was 19. But unofficially been doing business as early as I can possibly remember. Always finding ways to make money and do little side projects and things like that. And I wasn't particularly good at school. I didn't love school. I found it didn't really cater too well for my learning style. And I just knew from, very young that I just wanted to run businesses. I knew I was going to be a bad employee. And so I wanted to be an employer. And so that's basically what I've done. I've been building I've built and sold 8 different companies between starting out at 19 and now. And I just love the journey of entrepreneurship. I love building businesses. I love putting together teams. I love products. I love financials. I love all of the game of business. And I'm actively scaling businesses in this current market. I'm not one of these guys that teaches business but isn't running one. I'm actually growing and scaling businesses in this market today. So I've got one wife and 3 beautiful young daughters, and that's the way I want to keep it, right? Just totally committed to the things of God and want to see his government established on earth. And for me, that's in the business world. And that's a bit of a snapshot. I live on the most easternly part of Australia. I live on this little beautiful beach town called the Gold Coast. That's where our office is. And just like everybody else, juggling, being a committed son of God, being a husband and wife and a business owner, and, trying to fit time in there to do some exercise and build my intimacy with the Lord. Just the same juggle that everybody has to go through is what I'm juggling with. It's just that because I've been doing this a long time and I've stuck to the success principles of God, it's paid off for me and is continuing to pay off for me. So,
for those who are listening, those who are watching, what are skills or what are things that they can look into themselves to understand whether entrepreneurship is for them or not?
I think the first thing that I realized was that I was always a big dreamer, and I would share dreams with people, and they didn't get it. They didn't have a big enough vision. And quite often, they would try and get your big dream to fit inside their little one. And I was fortunate enough not to let people do that. A lot of people let other people take their big dream and kind of put a pin in it. And that was one thing. Another thing I think that, really spoke to me, even more practical, was, I grew up with a father who played competitive cricket. And I remember as a young kid, after the match, all these cricketers would get together, for a party or for a night or something after the match. And I got to see a distinction between, you know, the people that drove businesses, and they carried themselves differently, and they obviously had nicer cars, and they had and then these employees who were, you know, mostly miserable in their job and complained about it. It's like, dude, I just want to be an entrepreneur. Like, just practically, it just looks like a better option. And so, yeah, I just never let something steal my dreams on the way through as a young bloke. And yeah, and still today, I have to guard that. You know, there are plenty of people that, you know, I mean, I get up every single day to try and get rid of corruption in the marketplace. That's my assignment. It's a ridiculously big assignment. I'm never going to achieve it on my own. And that dream, you know, even scares some people because they can't get their head around it. And so they try and put a pin in it. And even today, I've got to kind of manage, you know, who are those voices? Who do I let speak into my life? You know, who do I listen to? Yeah, that's really it. But so for me, and I also didn't really like, you know, I wasn't really good at reading as a young bloke, and maths I always was pretty good at. I could figure maths out, which is, praise God, been really beneficial. But just a lot of the stuff, you know, I kind of worked out after a while, and I was gravitating to certain subjects, right? Maths was good, economics was good, legal studies was good. But like social sciences, and I couldn't care less. I just had no thing. So after a while, it became pretty evident where I wanted to go. And then I'm one of those like all-in people. In fact, I believe in all-in so much that I had hats made that say all-in. You know, it's I'm just all in. I chose business. I'm all in. I'll do business until the day I die.
I'm glad that you mentioned that it's important to be mindful of who you share your dream with. And it kind of reminds me of an entrepreneur that I know that also says you don't want to share your dream with small-minded people. And I want to ask, you know, you say you started multiple businesses and you have sold it, but I want to ask, what was your first business and why did you start that business?
First unofficial business was in my first year of high school. This was an unofficial business because I was, whatever I was, 12 or whatever. And juggling was the craze at the time, right? And I saw all my friends going to buy these, you know, expensive juggling balls up in the city and stuff. And I thought to myself, I could make these. And so what I would do is each afternoon I would go and buy bags of chickpeas, which are like cut up lentil type things. Yeah, and then I would go and get my shorts that were all like crazy colors, and I would cut a shape out of my shorts, and then I commandeered my mum's sewing machine, and I would sew up these, and then put the little chickpeas, finish it off, and then put 3 of these in a packet with instructions on how to juggle, and then I would sell them at lunch. And this was back in London where I was born, and I live in Australia now, but I was born in London. And yeah, and it was a great little business. And every afternoon I'd get on my BMX and I'd go and buy more bags of chickpeas and then cut up more of my shorts. And, you know, I was selling these things every lunchtime. And it all came crashing down though when the principal of the school came out to the schoolyard at lunchtime and tapped me on the shoulder and said, if you don't stop doing that, you're going to get expelled. And that's when I immediately knew then that the school system was against me as an entrepreneur. Fast forward to being 19, I actually went back to, so I came to Australia at 14, but at 19, I went back to London. And that's when I started my first official business, which was a window cleaning company, window washing, as you would call it in America. Yeah, and so I built that with a buddy of mine. And we built that we basically built up a window cleaning run where we would clean 800 houses on a 6-week cycle. And then after 2.5 years, I mean, it's winter in England, so it's not that nice. After 2.5 years, we actually sold that business. And I remember thinking to myself, I made more money selling this business than I ever did running it. And so since then, you know, that's basically the model that I've run, is scale a business up to some degree and then find somebody that wants to buy it. And the largest company was in 2009. I started a company in 2009, sold it in 2011, took it into 5 countries around the world and sold it. And then today we're in professional services. We have companies in telecommunications. We have financial services. We have property development, real estate. and a whole bunch of other things that we will just, some of those we'll build and keep.
Also started selling candy while in high school. But the only difference between your story and my story is that I did not stop when the principal approached me about selling candy. I actually continued, which eventually led me to get suspended.
And done it all over again because I would have had a brand new audience, right? I hadn't sold any at the new school. I should have gone straight to a new school. I would have had 100% market saturation. So, yeah, I probably shouldn't have listened either.
I want to go back to how you mentioned that you sold your window business 2.5 years. I want to ask, how can someone build a business with the intent to sell it? Like, what are 5 things that people should keep in mind if they plan to sell their business in the near future?
The first thing is the first thing. You've got to do this with God as your partner, right? Like, we design, our number one task as believers is to be in relationship with God. It's not about building businesses. It's not cash flow. It's not staff. It's about being a son, a daughter of the King. And on that journey, we become more like him. So that doesn't matter whether you're in business or whether you're in government or a stay-at-home parent, right? That's the role for every single one of us. It's just that for us, it's the business journey that pushes us to be more like him, right? That's like, we live for an audience of one, and that one is not our customer. It's not our spouse. It's not our kids. It's Jesus. And that's got to be at the center of everything we do in business, right? If we don't get that right, then anything else we try and add to it is absolutely pointless. So number one, intimacy with the Lord and playing a part in establishing his government on earth. Thy kingdom come on earth as it is in heaven. We are called to play a small part in thy kingdom come on earth as it is in heaven, right? That's number one. The second thing is you've got to understand spiritual warfare. It's a huge battle and it's ugly out there. And the enemy wants to take out not only every believer, but every believer that says, I want to produce wealth so I can fund projects and establish the government. Man, you're going to come under a tense attack, right? So you've got to understand what the tools of our warfare are. You've got to be able to decree a thing. You've got to be able to stand the enemy down. You've got to be able to spot the enemy on the journey, right? If you can't, and let's be honest, a lot of modern day Sunday church services don't teach us this stuff. You're going to have to learn it anyway. And there's a wonderful example of how to learn it. Like Jesus had 40 days of testing. Go and study how he handled it and start to do the same thing. But the enemy is going to want to come at you and steal your opportunities, steal your mindset, get you caught up in fear, doubt, anxiety, pressure. That's the enemy's field. And then if you actually get some level of success, the enemy changes track. Now tries to get you to fall in love with cars, girls, houses, watches, blah, blah, blah. And now tries to get you to be an ineffective believer because you're spending all your money on dumb stuff instead of advancing the kingdom. So 1 and 2, like if you don't get them right, there's really no point. Number 3, you got to show up every day, even if you don't want to. And I'll promise you, you won't want to. I've been showing up every single day from the 19 years old to 43, and I'll show up every day from here on in because I just made a commitment. I'm showing up every day. I don't want to show up every day. Some days I can't be bothered. Some days it's all late nights. I'm probably working harder now than I ever have because I've just got a bigger vision now than I've ever had. You've got to show up every day. And when you don't want to, see, fake it till you make it has become this concept of like, buy a beautiful watch and then people will think you're rich to do business with you. Rubbish. Fake it till you make it is even when I don't feel like doing it today, I'm going to come to work today. I'm going to show up today. I'm going to call those debtors that owe me money. I'm going to chase up those quotes. I'm going to do that, right? That's number 3. So if you don't do those 3, the rest are kind of pointless, right? You got to show up every single day. Number 4, you have got to learn to pick your battles, right? With people, not the enemy. The enemy, you got to stand that thing down left, right, and center. But when it comes to people, some people will want to take advantage of you. You got to learn when to let people take advantage of you. It's quite humbling, actually. You've got to know when to stand your ground and when not. I'll give an example of what I mean. If I just take our development company, right, where we're building houses, if I'm like stubborn, like no one's going to take advantage of me, then I have to spend all my time in the minute details, finding all the little discrepancies where somebody's double invoicing me or stonewalling me or whatever. But as long as I'm in the weeds, I can't be in the clouds. So for me, I'm like, I'll happily put up with a few problems in the weeds because I want to be in the clouds. So basically, I can either fight for a little gain or a big gain. And it's about working out, okay, how much are you prepared to play that game? Because for me, I'll let a few people do the wrong thing. I'll let a few discrepancies come in because actually it allowed me to chase, 2 more sites, 15 buildings, blah, blah, blah. And that's going to get me a much bigger net outcome than it is if I fight for the little things, right? So you've got to learn how to pick those battles. You're going to have team members that do the wrong thing. You're going to have team members that lie to you. They're going to cheat. They're going to steal, and that's just on a Monday, right? Like that's just life. You've got to learn to go, you know what? I'm not going to fight that battle because as long as I'm fighting that battle, I can't be taking ground over here. And that's an interesting dynamic. The 5th one, this is not necessarily spiritual, but no one does anywhere near enough marketing, right? You've got to do 50 times more marketing than you ever thought possible. And here's good news. It's never been easier. You can jump on your smartphone now, start producing content like you are with the podcast and distributing it across 8 platforms that actually matter, right? And when I say marketing, I mean, you've got to be running Google ads. You've got to be running Google ads today for any business because it's the hottest traffic you can get. You've got to be running Facebook and Instagram ads. You've got to be running TikTok ads. You've got to be running LinkedIn ads. You've got to have a website that converts. Then you've got to get out and network with people and actually go to networking events and meet people and forge relationships. Then you've got to set up strategic alliances with other people. Marketing, marketing, marketing. Never, ever, ever stop marketing. And when you get busy is the time to do twice as much marketing and not back off. Marketing, marketing, marketing is the answer to nearly all of your concerns. So I tried to cover a spectrum of really spiritual and lock it in with some super practical thing that you need to go and do. But you need to do marketing and you need to invest in a good website, obviously, and you need to invest in ads, paid advertising, produce content, put it out via ads and build awareness of your company, your brand, your product.
What's up, fam? If you would like to cop some fire Wealth in Christ merch, you can go to wealthinchristbrand.com. We have t-shirts, hoodies, sweatshirts, all available on wealthinchristbrand.com. Thank you guys for your support. I want to ask you, what are some spiritual warfare that you encounter in your business, and how have you overcome those spiritual warfare in your business journey so far?
In different ways, like go back to the property development. We were trying to get approval from council, and it was no one was giving us approval. There was no reason not to give us approval. That the devil was just binding up this opportunity and causing a huge amount of frustration. And so as soon as I was aware of that, I was like, cool, I've got to, get in this. So we stand the enemy down, we cancel the assignment, because the enemy knows that when this project goes well, we're going to start funding projects, right? So the enemy's like, right, get it. We don't want it to happen. So stand the enemy down, cut the assignment, get really loud and proud, pray about it all, obviously. And then I had to get in and start pushing people around, like, right, you said that, you did that, you told me you'd let me know today, where's that at? Like just bang, 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 bang. And then you get your outcome. So it can look like that. Sometimes it's in your mind where, you get a bit of bad news via email, right? And then the devil, because remember, the devil's not all knowing. The devil can only react to what happens because he doesn't know ahead of time. God knows ahead of time. The devil doesn't, right? So the devil sees that you start to get despondent, and then the lies just start coming in. And before you know it, you go from, I'm having a great day, to I get one bad bit of news, to, in my mind, I might as well just quit, right? And go and do something really lame with my life, become an employee or become a pastor or something, like, which is not my assignment, right? I'd be settling for something else that's not my assignment if I did that. So it's about guarding your mind, right? And hanging on to the vision and the promises of God, and speaking life over yourself and preaching sermons to yourself that keep you moving forward and keep you showing up every day. Like that's an element of spiritual warfare. Sometimes it's like, a gossiping team member, right? We got a bunch of team, and occasionally one goes rogue. It's like, cool. Well, how am I going to fix that? Am I just going to fire them? Well, they were good people. They're just gossiping. No, I'm actually going to fight in the spirit first. So I'm going to go to where they sit, and I'm going to, spiritually pray over their desk and their seat. And I'm going to intercede for them and pray God blesses these people. But then I'm going to cast that spirit of division out of my company. And then if it's not addressed, then I'm going to go to that person directly and say, hey, listen, that's not what we do here. But I'm not prepared to deal with it in the flesh before I fought for it in the spirit. So it depends how it plays out, but I'm the spiritual authority. That's the authority that I was given. Jesus says, all authority in heaven has been given to me, and I give it to who I please. And because I'm in Christ, I've been given all authority. So I've got to exercise that and stand the enemy down. But I've got to learn how to fight in different places, in different theaters, which is an interesting.
Wow, that's very powerful. And I want to ask, because reading your biography, I know that you wasn't always a Christian. So I want to ask, how has your faith continued to help you from that first interaction when you first believe and you trusted God fully with your heart, has helped you in your journey of business?
Interesting dynamic, because I literally thought that business was just to give me everything I wanted, right? More houses, more cars, more watches and stuff like that. And then when I read scripture, I realized that it's got nothing to do with me. And I've laid down my life to pick up a new life. And then it's a life of service to the King. And for me, that's business. So how has it helped me? I actually think, if I was to be really practical and honest, I think I would have prospered more in the short term had I not been a Christian. Mm-hmm. But in the long term, I've actually, now that when the Lord's prospered me, it's been sustainable because I understand stewardship and I understand the tools of the kingdom and I understand things like that. In the short term, the Lord had to humble me back, right? And start to show me the things of the kingdom. The Bible says it's the glory of God to conceal a matter, but it's the glory of kings to search it out. So I had to go through a long period of time when it didn't look like it was working, where I had to go back every day for fresh manna, but I couldn't take 2 lots. It was my daily provision that I had to sit through. And in that journey, I learned to become more like God. Now, ironically, when you become more like God, he can trust you with more, and then you slingshot forward. But interesting, I think if I hadn't known the Lord, I would have got more wealth sooner because I just would have done it the way everybody else does it, which is self-interest. But because I went with no self-interest, it's allegiance to the King, I come last, the Lord's been able to trust me with a whole lot more. So do not conform to the patterns of this world. It's not about how quickly you can climb the ladder. It's not about maximizing self-interest. It's not about pilfering other people to get ahead. It's never God if you make money at somebody else's expense. Never God. So therefore it can be a bit slower, but actually it's sustainable and it's a blessing. If you make a lot of money and you did it the wrong way, you will always be unhappy with yourself. If you do it the right way, when the money comes, it's a blessing, not a curse.
In the short term, you will have gained a lot of wealth, but in the long term, you gain sustainable wealth. And I want to ask, because, in this day and age, oftentimes as a Christian entrepreneur, we often see our counterparts in the world, they achieve their goals, they achieve their milestones very quickly, very efficiently, but it seems like for others, a slow grind, a slow journey to us achieving our goal. And I want to ask, what would your word of encouragement be to someone who may feel like that, where they feel like this is a slow journey? What would your word of encouragement be to such person?
This is what I would say, just bare bones, you laid down your life. So stop picking it up again and needing it to be somewhere. We have these arbitrary markers that we put in our mind that say, I must be here by this age. Well, they're just the flesh. So if you lay down your life, stop trying to pick it up. What you do need to do is just show up every day, maximize every day, make the minutes matter, right? Do the calls, do the marketing, do the meetings. Like you need to bring a massive day's worth of work every single day. Keep yourself humble and focus on the Lord, and stop trying to, hit arbitrary goals that just end up bringing a whole bunch of unnecessary pressure. If it's not working today, spend more time with the Lord. And then when you spend more time with the Lord, get out and do the work that matters. Don't sit at your desk watching videos. Get out and make phone calls. Don't drive around, start dropping into people, right? Don't just pray, after you spend time with the Lord, don't spend more time with the Lord saying nothing. Get out to networking events. You've just got to do the work that matters. And there's only really a few things that matter. And that's drumming up new business, closing new business, delivering new business, and collecting the money from business. Like, just do those things. And then over time, it will get better. Plenty of days and weeks and months that I was like, this is not working. This is not working. but there was always that glimmer of hope. It's like, yeah, but I've made a profit, so I'm going to invest that back in, and I'm going to, time will be my friend. And here I am, 43, and time has been my friend in the end. So just show up every day and don't second guess it. Don't listen to the other people who are saying, oh, you should be here by now. Everybody in the Bible that is my hero was the remnant. It was the one that was least likely, right? And the Lord often uses those people. So if that's you, then just get on with it. Show up every day and don't pick up the life that you laid.
And that's very powerful. And I want to ask, what are the several other business that you started, you grew, and you eventually sold?
So I had a turf delivery business. So we pick up turf and then deliver it to people's homes. We had a garden maintenance company. I had a telecommunications business a while back where I would, churn people over to new providers. I had a systemization business, which was basically how to systemize a small business, financial services company, obviously business coaching. That's what we've done since 2007. And a couple of other little things along the way. I actually had 3 window cleaning businesses. The first one I told you about sold. I waited 12 months and did that whole thing again. And then I came back to Australia and I built a commercial window cleaning business and sold it. So yeah, there's been a few things. There's been a few things in amongst all of that.
Hey family, I hope you're enjoying this episode so far. And if you are and you have yet to subscribe to us here on YouTube, please hit the subscribe button. And also, if you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts and you have yet to leave us a 5-star review, please do so. Now back to the episode.
Because reading about you, I know that you wasn't always a Christian. So I want to ask, how has your faith continued to help you from that first interaction when you first believe and you trusted God fully with your heart, has helped you in your journey of business?
Good question. It was the assignment that the Lord gave me from the very beginning. So I remember I came to Christ on the 23rd of September, 2004. And I had been to 3 Sunday services before I sat down with the Lord. I remember I was out in my back garden. I'd been to work all day. I was reading my Bible in the afternoon. And I said to the Lord out loud, I said, I've spotted the racket. I said, these people are sitting in the same seat, singing the same songs, standing up at the same time, sitting at the same time, nodding at the same time, having coffee at the same time. And that is the pinnacle of their Christian life, right? This just attending church is like all they've got. And I said to the Lord, if that's all you've got for me, you won't keep me. I actually said to the Lord out loud, if that's what Christianity is, going to church on Sunday, what the world has to offer is better. I said, you need to show me that there's a difference in the world if I'm laying down my life. There needs to be a material difference in the world if I'm laying down my life. And the Lord showed me immediately that one day I would start a training academy for Christian entrepreneurs. So that was 2004, but I didn't start that until 2012. So, and today we have Kingdom Business, podcast on YouTube and on, iTunes and Google playlists and stuff like that. We have, a big conference that we run called the Kingdom Business Summit, which I'll bring to the US next year. We've got the Kingdom Business Network, which is chapters all over Australia. It's become a movement essentially, and putting out free content every single day across all our social platforms and stuff like that. So yeah, I'm just trying to be obedient to the assignment that the Lord gave me, but he told me right back when I first got saved of what I would do.
Said about your interaction with God and what has allowed you to continue to be in this Christian journey is that you spoke to God and you basically told God in order for you to follow him is that you can't just be an average Christian and, he has to give you something materialistic. And, oftentimes people like to quote the 1 Timothy 6:10 that the love of money is the root of evil. So my question is it important for Christian? How important is it for a Christian to be wealthy?
I feel like it's easier for God to bridle ambition than it is for him to stir up, get people out of apathy, right? If you're a little bit too focused on the money, I think God can deal with that. If you're like a lazy Christian, I think that's harder for God. So I guess I'm saying that to give people permission to be like, you know what, feel free to get it wrong. And there have definitely been times when I was younger that I was probably too focused on the wealth and not enough on the things that create it, right? so, that's kind of how I see it. The wealth itself is irrelevant, right? It's money with a bunch of dead people on it, right? It's zeros in a bank that don't exist, right? The wealth is irrelevant. Sure, it means that I can take my family on a nice holiday. Sure, it means I can, have a nice truck. But actually, the money's not about me. The money is so that I can do works. Go back to the Good Samaritan. If the Good Samaritan didn't have any wealth, he wouldn't have been able to do the good works. It wasn't about the wealth. The wealth just allowed him to say, if here's a person in need, and if there's any more of a bill, let me pay it, type thing. The wealth is not important. And you never want to you never want to feel status or prestige from money, because it'll be taken away in 2 seconds. You want to feel status and prestige from the fact that you're a son or a daughter of God. Then the money is a blessing, not a curse. So, but just the wealth is important because, my church needs to run its air conditioning unit and the lights and buy new chairs. So the wealth is important practically. But obviously, if I want to fund, when we'll lose 70 grand a year running one conference. When we do our big conferences, we run them at a loss on purpose because I want to feel the cost. That's got to be paid for by somewhere, right? So the wealth is important because it's got to be able to pay those bills. But actually, the wealth just makes a way for me to have influence. Influence is worth more than wealth. It's just that in this world, they're intrinsically linked. When you have wealth, they put you up on a pedestal. And when you're up on a pedestal, you can have your influence.
So that, the more influence you have, the more easy is it to push your message, push this word of God out there to people, this good news. And that kind of leads me to ask, what are common mistakes that you see Christian entrepreneurs struggle with?
A lot of them are still questioning whether money's a bad thing. That's pretty much across the board. And then on a similar vein, a lot of people are scared to really push because they feel like they might be striving. And it takes a lot of hard work to build a great business. So, you've got to really, really push and put in massive days for a long period of time. There's just no way around it. There's no lifestyle business. People say to me, I'm starting a lifestyle business. I'm like, you're going to go broke. I promise you. It takes a lot of hours and a lot of effort and a lot of years to build a great business. And you've got to pay that price if you want to do it. There's no shortcuts. They're the two main things. People get caught up with, I'm still scared about money and I don't want to push too hard. It's like you need both of those things to have a go at this.
And how do you help them through your coaching program overcome these different challenges?
So, the number one way is I live by example. I'm pushing so hard. I'm stacking projects on projects on projects, right? To get things done. So, I one of the ways I coach them is I just live it out. Like I'm working harder than anybody, and I enjoy that because the word work and the word worship is the same word in scripture, right? So working hard is a form of worship. And then the other thing I do is I coach them through the mindset of limitations. Like Jesus, sure, he took himself away to pray and he had some downtime, but outside of that, he was committed. Like he worked day and night to achieve his mission, right? So, scripturally, there's lots of examples. And ultimately we give them structure around how to be time efficient, what kind of activities need to be in their diary to move the needle on the business. And once they've kind of given themselves permission to work really hard and go really hard, and then we stack their diary with so much activity that they can't lose, they don't have time to question it anymore. They're just too busy doing work.
Hey, thank you for your time, Mr. Wez Hone, for taking time out of your day this morning. Well, one of my last questions is, what inspired you to start Kingdom Business TV?
I just want to touch as many lives as I can. I want to take the things of the kingdom and broadcast them as loud and as broad as I possibly can. And the tools of the year that we live in allow us to do that in an amazing way. So I built a team around me. We have a production studio. I have editors, and they work in-house on staff and they take the content and produce it. For me, I probably only spend 2 hours a week on producing content, and we turn that into like 278 pieces of content a week across all platforms. So I don't know why. I don't know why anybody wouldn't. Like, this is the year that we live in. And if you want to broadcast a message, I want to drown out the corrupt world. I want to drown out the negativity of the world and and amplify the good things of God and the good things of the kingdom. And there's never been a better era to do that in.
Thank you again, Mr. Wez Hone, for your time. I want to ask you before we close out this interview, for those who may be interested in learning more about your coaching program, where can they go to learn more about your coaching program?
You can go to, there's probably two places, kingdombusiness.com.au. Kingdombusiness.com.au would be a good place to start. And then businessgreenhouse.com.au would be places that we would put most of our stuff.
Thank you again, Mr. Wez Hone. For those who are listening, if you're looking for a group of Christians who are working towards becoming financially free, look no further and join our Pray Invest group. And if you guys don't know, I have a free study guide. I can show you how you can get started in the stock market completely for free. And as well as if you haven't yet subscribed to us on YouTube or Apple Podcasts, give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, please do so and look forward to seeing you guys next week.